Okay, Waverly. Go on.
Are we supposed to enter?
Yes.
Okay,
Go on.
my name is Dr. Bosco.
I'm just MaKenzie Serlin. I'm just a scientist. That's it. I'm smart.
Okay, the animal that we did was the Irish elk.
Good for its description was, well, as you can see from the pictures, it's obviously very tall. The antlers were very big, 3.5 meters, about not 7 feet, sorry, 12 feet. It's actually, hold on, crap, I can't speak, sorry. Sorry. Their fur kept them warm, so it was nice and brown, so they blend in with the area around them. I haven't done this a lot. Yeah. It was about 7, no, actually not just 7, but about from, I think, 6 to 8 feet from the ground to its shoulder. And then, of course, it was taller than that from his head, but anyways, sorry, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
close relatives were the fallow deer, the hog
Fallow.
deer, the Asian axis deer, and the red deer.
The process of the extinction is basically just an entire species or family of an animal dying out completely. That's it.
Okay, this is the selective pressures that it faced, but sometimes survival, because sometimes animals would attack it and they would use their
Irish
antlers.
wolfhound. Irish
Yeah.
wolves.
They would use their antlers to fight off predators. And the other selective pressure is reproduction, where the females would go for the male with the biggest antlers. And some people believe that the reason they went extinct is because they kept on doing that, and their antlers got so big that they were too heavy to carry on their head, that they just, as soon as they got big enough, they just fell to the ground and couldn't get it back up. So.
Hold on. Oh, another thing, hold on. I think around this time period, there's a few people, I think maybe it was the Celts, because they lived just before, this comes afterwards, but they can't live, but just before the last ice age, if I remember correctly. And I think there was people, actual people, I think it was the Celts that lived there, and I think there was a few of them that actually survived the ice age, but I think it was really just a few. I think they were killed by the Celts because they became kind of like a symbol for them, and it's in a lot of Celtic things if you can find them. You can see their huge antlers and the deer. So, yeah, just extra piece. Oh yeah, sorry. The extinction is the process of just bringing something back. Yeah. The definition's too long. I don't want to read it.
Okay, the process of the extinction that we're going to use is cloning, which is making an identical copy of the animal that you want to bring back. And we're gonna bring it back by finding some of its bones. Hopefully it'll be well preserved. Sometimes they're not, but they should be, in the peat bogs of Ireland or Northern Ireland, depending on which one will let us come to their country. And then we'll get the DNA from it as long as it's viable. Because if it's not, it won't work. And then we will put it in the cell of another deer that's its closest relative. Before we have to take that one's nucleus out so we can put the DNA in. That way it doesn't just create another one of that deer. And then hopefully we'll put it back in the mother, and it hopefully should bear the kid. And Waverly got this confused earlier. She said, oh, there'll be a problem with the antlers. But they don't get their antlers till they're about a year old at least. So just, yeah. okay, why we should bring back the Irish elk? They could help us see how, because he's so big, you can see how the big animals used to survive.
Okay.
And it could help, we could do research on it, and it could help with diseases. And if the cloning process works, we can figure out how we did it, and then do it on other animals and bring them back. And since it's 2030 and a lot of animals are going extinct, I thought that
some deer went extinct, that we could bring it back to life, and like if the deer population's running low, we can bring it back and just like put it in like an area where it's running low on deer, and because we hunt deer, that's what our source of food would be, because some people hunt deer to eat, and that's how they would get their food.
Okay, their habitat was the British Isles, which is actually now England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. I've actually been there. It's very nice. All their food was since it's a herbivore. It's a deer, obviously. It ate plants. Anything that it could get to and it was not poisonous, it would eat. This sometimes includes if it found a thorn, it would try to eat it. And also, just like another thing, the Irish elk is one, not really Irish, and two, it's not even an elk. So, yeah. Yeah, the end. Yes?
Are you going to try to manage the length of the antlers in order to keep them alive?
Now, their antlers don't exactly cause a problem. It's the fact that deer aren't incredibly bright animals, so they have a tendency to try to fit in through smaller spaces than they should. So they might get caught, but usually they break off. If you use enough force, they'll break off pretty easily. So the deer should be able to get out of places, but their antlers, other than that, they don't really cause other harm to other things other than themselves and other species. That's it. Yes. Big.
If you guys do bring it back, seeing how the antlers are so big, don't you think that deer hunters would want to hunt them and kill them for their antlers because it would be worth a lot of money?
Waverly, do you want me to answer this?
So, like, you guys have a designated area where you put it to make sure that it doesn't get hunted again?
Want me to answer? Okay. Yes. Well, we would put it back where it belonged in the British Isles, where it should be, because people over there, they don't hunt them to hunt them. They don't really hunt them at all. It's not a sport or really a thing over there. It's more of I think of an American thing that we do instead of other countries. But you'd put them there first, that way they get used to it, and then you can bring them to other places that's similar.
Was it a predator or prey or both?
It was a prey.
Yeah,
Unless you
it was
count
prey.
plants, then it was a predator to plants. So, Paige.
Okay, so you said that it's not something I can do that, but some people go on hunting trips overseas. What are you going to do about that?
Yes. Well, the thing is, I think some people over in the British Isles hunt, but they don't necessarily hunt big animals, and I think you have to have a license. And I think you can only kill a certain number. I think so. Hannah.
Since you said that these animals could be dangerous to other people.
Not particularly people,
Well,
but
like to
other,
species.
of the same ones, because they fight for mates.
How are you going to like teach it to like humans are good and like these species won't hurt you, or how are you going to protect it from predators that might kill it?
Well, answer the predators part, they're big animals, so most predators, unless they want to take a big risk of trying to kill a large animal and not being trampled by it, most of them wouldn't. But also with it dealing with people, maybe it not liking people, it'll probably act like, if you've never ever seen like a normal deer, how it reacts to people, it doesn't really come near people usually. Yeah, it probably won't come near you, and if it does, it'll probably stay about that far away and won't come near you, because they won't really know what you are, because usually other species don't really know what other species are incredibly well. So, yeah, but also another thing, if you go over to England, the roads there, they're very small, so I think you'd have to definitely put them on a reservation or somewhere where they wouldn't be a problem to other animals or people, because definitely not near some of the few bases over there, not ours, but
their bases. So if you go to the back roads, there's you can see where there's tank crossing signs just everywhere on the back roads because they use it to travel them from base to base. You would have to make sure the deers aren't anywhere near there so they don't get trampled by the tanks or any people because they probably would shoot them. So yeah, if that answers your question.
Right.
Okay, so I have two questions. How would you manage, like, watch what they're doing to make sure that they, like, are restrictions and stuff on them? Like, make sure people are following what you say.
Want to answer this, Waverly? Okay, I'll do it. You would pretty much just make sure there's enough food and enough area for them to be in, and also food to eat and stuff to actually be around. Their habitat and their environment is, perfect, well, quote unquote perfect for them because it is a thing. Anyways, you would just make sure there isn't a surplus of deer, or in this case, the Irish elk. So that's it. You would just take them if there's more. You take them and see where they're needed, and you put the deer there if they allow you to.
Okay, my second question is, since there was like 4 different, I don't know how, there's a whole bunch of deers.
Yeah, that's the 4 that we decided to put on there.
Which one would you choose to,
We chose the Asian axis deer.
is that because it's closest?
Well, it's the closest, and all of the 4 are really close to it, but the Asian axis deer is one in Asia, and it's closer to the Isles than I think the other ones off the top of my head. But also, it's the largest of them.
Well, so did it come
After.
before, like did it come after that?
I think they, off the top of my head, I think they came from a similar deer or thing. But yes, I think they are. Yeah. Ugh, Nick.
Do you think there'd be a problem if poachers want to take their antlers? If so, how would you want to stop?
Okay. Yes, there probably would be a problem, and it would probably most be if they're in other areas. Mostly, to answer the how would you stop it, we would watch them, have people just watch them and not bother them and make sure they're not bothering them and change it out every so often so that they make sure it's not bothering them so we don't have issues with that. Hold on. And poachers, but most poachers would stay in other areas because the area where I would put them would probably be around Mount Snowdon. I'll explain what that is in a minute. But there's very big open areas around that, so it would be very easy to keep watch of them and keep people out of it. Also, Mount Snowdon is part of a mountain range in England, so yeah. Hannah.
This one's Waverly. How are you supposed to acquire this land to keep the animals? Like, how are you going to acquire a reservation for it to stay on? And if so, how are you going to convince the people that live there that this is a good thing and please move on?
Oh God, I'll answer this fine. Okay, you would probably convince them, one of the biggest reasons you convince them is that it used to be part of their history and culture with the Celts. So, England and the British Isles are usually very big on their history. They like knowing their history. It's I don't know, it's their thing, they like it. So that'd probably be the biggest reason they would actually let you. But people there, they'd be a little bit harder to convince, but there's some areas where they could go that people are not on. They would probably leave if they were asked to.
One last question.
Oh, me?
Yeah,
Either Kate or you.
Hey, you can go first.
either or.
Okay, so like, how does size
How does what?
Size.
Oh.
Okay, well, their height, they definitely have some issues with getting in and out of places because they're really tall. So you definitely have to find an area where they would be very easily equipped to where they could get in and out and around. They'd be fine. but an area where you'd still be able to watch them.
You said like like bringing them back, but when did you chose because it was like the biggest of them? Like how did you decide?
Well, because since they're a bigger size, they need something bigger to have them. Yeah, 'cause I think, I'm just thinking relatively, since it usually would be about, like, if it was standing in this room, its head might be up in the up here in the rafters, but a baby one would probably be about this, maybe this tall, because, you know, they're a bigger size. Anyways. Zoe.
If you got them back to life and the horns were bigger than you wanted them to be, what would you do?
Well,
Because they were already overweight, so what would you do if they were?
well, actually, their antlers actually wouldn't be entirely overweight or really big for the animal, because like if you've ever seen like deer, how their antlers get bigger as they get older and then they stop growing them after a certain period of time. Anyways, they're like that. They get bigger as the animal gets older. So if they're like a couple years old, they'll have small antlers, really small antlers compared to one who's, I don't know, like maybe 5 years old. They'll have huge antlers. And
Yeah,
also
like
get bigger.
when it's born, what if it had antlers that were bigger than expected?
They don't have antlers when they're born. That's
Well, when I know so I'm saying like if they were or if they grew and their antlers like grew at a faster pace than what they were supposed to.
well, that's
No, I just want to get it.
it's fine. It's fine.
You are so
Okay, anything else?
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
No. Okay.